cannon instead of riding a horse. I didn't want that either. We had in them days, when we went on maneuvers down to Hearst Ranch in California. And on the way, well, the men were gone. A lot of the men were gone. The Army wasn't ready, and the men were gone to industry, and the women and the young women, and they put on little street dances for us, and they'd bring in their fine food, and we'd get off and go to the street dance, and some of them women were lonesome, and all of this kind of thing. In Modesto, California, I got in love. Little Portuguese girl, didn't speak too good English, but she was beautiful. Hair like spun gold, I guess. Put together like I didn't know they were built. And she came up to Tacoma, where we were stationed then in Swamp Murray. And I was in love, and she was in love, and I had $2 when we found a preacher. Got married, place to live. We went up and outside stairs and into a room that had been an attic. Had running water in there, cold. Had a stove, place to eat, a bed. That was our apartment. It was a pretty good one. I bought her a black nightgown. I was fair at poker. I bought her a black nightgown, and then I had to go back and do guard duty on the weekend, and I told her, well, I said, I'll be back in 3 days. Well, I got out there, and we had the fella in there, and some lady had called him bird brain, and then they decided his name was dead cell, and all these kind of things, somebody trying to be better than him. I got him to take my guard for a nickel a shift. And went back to town, and when I got up them stairs to surprise her, I seen that nightgown laying on the ground and a Marine uniform jacket over the chair. And I was kind of excited, and I got that, just went in, you know, and here's this poor Marine paralyzed in the bed, and I just slipped my fingers in his nose and got him out to the doorway and pulled my knee up in his stomach a couple of 3 times, and then turned him loose, and he fell down them stairs. See, he didn't have any clothes on. And I went back up there and started putting my stuff in a duffel bag, and she would tell me she wasn't going to do that again, and I told her I really didn't care. And then I got to thinking about that poor guy. What was I doing that to him for? Think about that a minute. I would have went, you know. So would you if you was young and single, and maybe you wouldn't. Whatever. I went out there and got him. By then he had a pretty good crowd, laying there on his back, naked, bent over like that, just barely coming out of it. I went down and got him, brought him back up the stairs. He was saying, don't do that anymore. He said, I'm out of here. He didn't say I'm out of here, but he was going. I went back out to Old Swamport Murray, and they had 6 of us living in a tent. And the water was everywhere. The only difference was it was still wet inside the tent. But it wasn't dropping on you in big drops, it just kind of seeped in there. Mud, you couldn't get out. There was no way out of that mud. It was ankle deep, some places knee deep. And I was sitting in there, I wanted to go to French Foreign Legion, you know, but we didn't have any French Foreign Legion. And the captain came in there and he said that anybody in here want to go to the Philippines? Well, you know, that's pretty close. It ain't quite to Arabia, but I was a long ways away, and I'd like to see other people, and I had no problems with it. And I could see grass skirts and all this kind of stuff too, you know. And I'd get away from that, and that would punish her, and she would know she shouldn't have done that to me. So the next thing I know, I was no longer a corporal. I was a private and on a Princess liner headed for the Philippines. And the first thing that happened to us, there were 26 of us joined that National Guard outfit, and that was from Missouri, Joplin, and that country. A lot of them fellas that were in that place, of course it wasn't too unusual, but a lot of them fellas in there got in the Army because they could draw their name. Couldn't read, couldn't write. Good people, no education. I remember one of them, his name was Gordon. And another one, his name was Go and I. Really named, last name was I. But, and we played a little poker, and everybody got seasick, and then they come in there and said, "Hey, anybody in here not seasick?" Well, I wasn't. My dad, when he got drunk, he'd come home and he'd punch me out. He'd come teach me to fight, see? So I wouldn't have to take the abuse that he took. When I was 13, I showed him what he taught me, and my mother said, "You better leave before he wakes up." So I ended up working row crops, you know, and that was about the best job you could get. You hoe beans. I remember in Colorado, they got that Dove, Colorado. You've seen that on the television. That stuff had rows of them beans that you had to hoe 13 miles long. You could see the row here, but it got down there about halfway, and then from then on, it just looked like green beans. And that was me. And all of them names that they call people trying to show that they're better than they are, you know, Jig and Jigaboo and Wop and Spick and Goop. And there was me, poor white trash.
Attention in the center.
So when they call you half-breed, you know, depend on whether you're in the teepee or the house, what part they was cussing. And everybody knew I was a half-breed in the small town I was in, so they didn't, when I was out there chopping, even though I was working with an Navajo, they just called me poor white trash. They didn't call me Siwash or blanket or any of that type. And I'm glad we don't do that anymore. There ain't no use doing that. If you want to be better than somebody else, prove it. And besides, they'd kind of cut down on calling me Siwash and that kind of stuff. The bigger I got, the less they wanted to do that. You know, the bullies I found out a long time ago, and maybe it's worth something to you. If you make them bleed a little bit, you don't have to win, just make them bleed a little bit. If you get that done, you're winning. Because next time they don't want to bleed anymore. It ain't that they don't want to push you around. It works out that way. Well, anyway, here I was in the Philippines. The first thing I see in the Manila Harbor was a dead pig stinking up the place. The guy on the boat wearing a little bitty pair of shorts. Another guy behind in hanging over the side of the boat going to the bathroom. And then when they got us marching out there to where we were supposed to get on the bus, I see the women sitting in the window, flap up like that. One behind the other one picking the lice off of their head in a Mother Hubbard dress. Well, it just ruined my world. I was hunting for grass skirts and all that. Clean that mess up. Wasn't long. We had some pretty good duty. We got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, went to work, 11 o'clock you were off. That was the end of your day. And we had quite a mess of this captain, this officer. They told us, he said, all of your misfits that are here, or he said to the 26 of us, he said, all of us are misfits. And as long as he was there, he was going to take care of the discipline it took to make us better. good problem. I decided to be a radio man. Oh, word more is cold. I ain't good at that kind of stuff. I'm better at choking horses than that. But at that time I was good at that. But anyway, I had 30 days furlough coming, and I wasn't too much to drink. A lot of them guys go to town and drink and thought they'd done something because they got out of home where they didn't have to not drink. And I got on a bus, and I asked the guys up there, the people that spoke English, I asked them which bus goes where, and the farthest it goes. So they told me which bus, and I waited about 10 minutes, and I had a piece of canvas and a blanket, and I got on the bus, and had that all rolled up. I had about 100 pesos, which was then $50. And I'll tell you something, that country was so beautiful. Immoral. He was doing some kind of penance for something he'd done bad in his religion. When the bus stopped, he stepped off and run. And we got the heads and the bodies, and we put them in a little place, and we pulled into the next town and gave them to the authorities. They got a bucket and washed that off and stuff then. But there was a place where there was a light, and I went down there in a Chinese store. And I asked the man, can I sleep on his porch? Well, he didn't speak English, but I stopped down there and asked him to be all right, and he nodded his head, and pretty soon he come and got me and took me inside, put me under a mosquito net. And he told me that I'm sure that what he was telling me made me sick to be out there in the mosquitoes. Well, I hadn't got the mosquito smarts by then, but I was still taking quinine. They told me to take it. I take it as quinine. And I thought that would protect me, but he didn't seem to think that would protect me. Next morning I got up, and he had a piece of bread, and they call it pan of Spanish thing gave it to him. He gave me that piece of bread, and there was a can of Blue Bonnet margarine, believe it or not. So I got them two things, and I went down. I had some fishing line. I went down to Bong Bong River there, and going to catch a fish, but I decided to go swimming first. I had a swimsuit, and I got in that river and drifted. Went out in that ocean, right there in the ocean. Went around the bend. Wish I had time to tell you this story, but I went back over that place, that bend. There was nobody lived in that cove I finally got into. And there was a Swally hut. And I knew somebody was there somewhere. And finally I saw a girl about, what, I don't know, 16, 17, had a patch of white hair. I remember that special. And what I wanted to do with the 30-day furlough I had, I wanted to rent a place to stay and go to fishing and swim and maybe pick up a little of the language. I didn't particularly want to be around the people. Well, I tried to tell her that, and then finally she told me to come on, you know. That means go, and that means come on. And we went over the top there. Of course, all I had on that swimming pants. Well, got down to a place, and she tried to, when we got back over that ridge, was that place where we'd been.